What do the two best movies of the year have in common? Sand. Dune 2, and now Furiosa. I don't know why sand seems to be the new thing for high quality productions, but God bless. Furiosa is extraordinary. I am a huge fan of Mad Max Fury Road. I think it is a masterpiece that will probably forever stand the test of time. I think that movie will always be good, even 100 years from now, no matter what the standards are then. When our fucking existence is just like little brains in a jar, we'll probably still be highly entertained by Mad Max Fury Road. So to say Furiosa had big shoes to fill in my eyes is an understatement. And I'm happy to say that I think it absolutely succeeded here. Now, I'll go ahead and get this out of the way right now. We'll get down to the brass tacks. It's not better than Fury Road, but I would say it's almost as good as Fury Road in a very different way. These are totally different experiences. Fury Road is a spectacle that's a little light on characters because it didn't really need to. You just get so lost in this unbelievable experience that you don't really need a whole lot of depth to the world and the characters around it. Furiosa, however, is all about its characters and world building, while of course maintaining that iconic DNA that Mad Max has become known for of beautiful action set pieces, practical effects, fucking combustion engines that rattle your testicles in your seat, fucking pumping gasoline into your veins as you watch the film, pumping your fist at the set pieces. All of that is still very much intact, and it now has a much deeper, lore-rich world and characters to accompany it. So, let's get into it. This obviously focuses on the origin story of Furiosa taking place before Fury Road, kind of explaining how she got to where she is in that film. It starts with her as a child getting kidnapped by the new main villain here, Dementus, played by Chris Hemsworth. I love the name Dementus, by the way. It's very reminiscent of old George Lucas Sith Lord ideas with Darth Insanius and Darth Yucky. I love that name. Dementus is so good. Now, I initially thought he'd be like a diet great value Immortan Joe, but he's not at all, just completely different. It's like comparing me to a tall person, like it's not even on the same scale. The only thing that Immortan Joe and Dementus share in common is that they're both worshipped by their followers, but Dementus is completely unhinged while also being extremely crafty, and it's very clear that Chris Hemsworth loved playing this role. Every time he is on screen, it just seems like I'm watching him like have the time of his life. I'm not kidding when I say I half expected him to bust out some of my dog shit dance moves when he was going into like a villain speech that he was given. I thought he'd be hitting him with like the "Where's my hug at" when he's threatening Immortan Joe or something. Like he is just, it's hard not to be entertained when Dementus is on screen. I'm trying not to get into any like spoilers or anything, but I love the way that he approaches this world. He knows that he is an evil piece of shit. He's well aware of it, and he just tries to have fun with that. I'm talking about Dementus the character now, not just Chris Hemsworth playing him. So like, for example, when he goes to try and strike a deal with Immortan Joe, he has a hostage, and he has this weapon that's attached to the hostage that he's like holding back, and he's got little nipple clamps attached to it at the same time, so that way if he lets go, it's gonna rip his nipples off. For no reason other than he likes having his nipples clamped and thought it'd be fun. Like, I don't know, like, how can you not enjoy that? That's so fucking good. So, I am a huge fan of Dementus, and I am glad that it's not just doing the Immortan Joe character again. They made a completely unique one here with Dementus, and I think they crushed it, and Chris Hemsworth nailed the performance of it. And I also think Anya Taylor-Joy did an amazing job as a young Furiosa here. She doesn't have very many lines, but the lines she does have are very powerful. When she uses her voice, it is a big deal, and it carries a lot of weight. She's also extremely badass, so she's like a one-woman army, just like fucking slaughtering tons and tons of people, but she's so far from invincible. She gets beat up, she loses more than she wins, try not to get into spoilers, but she suffers great loss, like physically, emotionally, obviously. Like, she is not, some superhero, but she does what she needs to survive, and she is great at that. But anyway, switching gears back to the overall story, the narrative. After kidnapping Furiosa, Dementus does something unforgivable, and Furiosa dedicates her life to revenge. She will do anything she can to get the chance at killing Dementus for what he has done. and it's a really, really good revenge movie. I have no complaints at all about the characters or the writing. I do, however, have like a bit of a nitpick with a couple of things that happen in the story, but they're not a big deal. It's not an overall detriment. But there was a couple moments where I really thought it didn't make sense that the people around Furiosa wouldn't have taken notice of a couple things that she had done. It's not that big of a deal that they didn't. You can kind of just write that off as like, everyone here is kind of out of their fucking mind. They're off their gourd. They're literally like chroming their face and shit. Like everyone's very, in a different mindset. So maybe they just wouldn't notice, or they wouldn't, recognize faces or pick up on certain things. So now let's get into something that I'm sure everybody wants to hear about: the action. Mad Max Fury Road became very, very well known for its practical effects, using all real stuff, stunts, actors, cars, vehicles, all of the explosions, all of it being very authentic, very little CGI. There is CGI in the movie, contrary to popular belief. There is CGI in Fury Road, but it's used to enhance a lot of the practical effects to make them even larger than life, and it never really feels like there's CGI there when it is there. Furiosa does have more CGI. And Furiosa's CGI isn't used in the same way it was in Fury Road. What I mean by that is there's a couple of scenes that it's very clear they're in front of a green screen. It is still majority practical effects. Like, don't mistake me, this isn't like a fucking Marvel movie level, CGI out the wazoo or anything here. But there is noticeably more here, and it does stand out, especially because I went in expecting there to be pretty much none, like there was in Fury Road, where it's, sprinkled in here and there for some flavor. But in Furiosa, there are entire sequences that definitely have a lot of CGI elements to them. It's not horrible CGI or anything. We're not talking like it's Beast Wars from the 90s or anything. It's not looking like Jimmy Neutron. But you just do notice them because everything else is practical effects for most of the scenes. So when there are scenes that are a lot of green screen, you're like, that looks super different than what I just saw. What kind of fishy business is afoot here? Now, I understand it's a much bigger movie in terms of like scale than Fury Road, so it's hard to expect all of it to be practical, but it is definitely worth noting that there are some scenes here where it does stand out. Like, I hate to just keep comparing it to Fury Road, but it's super hard not to. So like when you had the big CGI moments in Fury Road, like the storm, that shit still looked like amazing. Like that looked so like vivid, like it really felt powerful. Like that CGI was there to enhance and bring more flavor to everything we were experiencing, like physically, like all the practical effects. The CGI here, it doesn't really do the same thing. And I know I already mentioned that, but I wanted to give like a direct example, like with the storm in Fury Road. But overall, I was still very pleased and highly entertained by all of the action sequences. It is so fucking incredible to see like the war boys jumping down, slamming the explosive sticks, throwing the explosive sticks, and they had like some paramotors going and dropping more explosives on the war rig. Like it was all so good. So fucking good. And one thing that I have to mention here is I just love the world. Like I love all of like the silly character costumes that George Miller comes up with. They're so good. There's just nothing else really like it. It's just so fucking unique. I'm a huge fan, and I really do think Furiosa is a great film. I don't have any like major complaints. Like even the CGI thing that I harped on a little bit, to me didn't ruin it. It didn't take me out of it. It wasn't even like really disappointing or anything per se. It's just something that I noticed where I was like, oh, Fury Road I do think was definitely better in that regard, but Furiosa is still better than the vast majority of things that come out in terms of its action and its practical effects usage, as opposed to putting all of the budget, all their eggs in the basket of CGI. They say, fuck it, we'll do it live. We're going to do it with real actors, real stunts, real environments, real vehicles. Fucking run it. And it's still so thrilling. And it just breathes so much life into a film like this. So Furiosa, I definitely think, is a must-watch movie, especially if you like Mad Max Fury Road. I imagine you probably didn't need my seal of approval on that. If you liked Fury Road, I guarantee you were going to see this no matter what. But plugging Furiosa into the moist meter, I'd easily give this a 90%. It's still a very, very, very good movie. It's about 2.5 hours long, and it tells like 5 chapters. and I don't think it feels 2.5 hours long. Like, this was a like full throttle, just blast. It was great. So yeah, Furiosa, absolute banger. It slapped. That's about it. So yeah.